So we are middle of the page, Ches. The line starts with Reish Samach Vav. And the last thing that we said was, this is the reference to the Hamshach Samach Vav, that even the sphere is, the way the sphere is in art, pardon me, even though there is no Hagdorah, meaning there is no distinguishing factor among the spheres, because they are not there through a process of a coming forth, or a process of revelation, of expression. They are there inherently. Ak or Kadmi. They never came into being, and therefore there is not any Hagdor. It is they're all part of the reality itself. But nevertheless, they are b'chinas mitzius dover. It's called mitzius dover. In order that we should be able to speak in terms of spheres, and a sphere is spheres by definition. Even if we are talking about spheres, the ark in a pristine manner, the whole principle of spheres has to do is an allusion to functionality. So even though there is not any distinguishing factors and so forth, but there is a presence, Messias Dover, because functionality has to do with a presence. Functionality means how it functions, how it affects something else. And therefore, spheres in this process, and at that level, even as it is in Ark, there's a Metzius Dover, and therefore the Kol Zeh. This is what we have to understand. The Kol Zeh. Okay, this is a line that begins Reish Samach Vav in the middle of the page. Kol Zeh, all of this, from the highest and the lowest, even the way it is in Ak, Ein Shayach Be'ein Soif Klal. In Ein Soif, this is not Shayach at all. Again, as we pointed out many times, and especially yesterday, we also went there a little bit, that Ein Sof is a pure reality, cannot have any components.
Amen. Amen.
Therefore, any kind of definition, or even without definition, any kind of presence of spheres, what would be a sphere again? Spheres. goodness, kindness, generosity, chesed, which may be inherent qualities. Is already a presence. And in Ein Sof, that is not applicable. In a Shayach, totally inapplicable. There's absolutely nothing that can be said about Ein Sof. Okay, so let's continue. Umash in his Hava Esesphires, and the fact that Esesphires came to be, Zehu Rag Bibchinas his Galus Ha'oir Shaloi. That is only in the Bechina of his Galus Ha'oir Shaloi, of the presentation of his Oir. Loi Bibchinas Ha'atzmos. Not in the Atzmus Bechina, not in the Atzmus element. It's a little, if you understand, as we spoke yesterday, the principle of Oir. That Oir and Atzmus is sort of inseparable. Because only an etzem has oir. And the oir is representative of something that is an atzmi. Otherwise there is no oir. So here we are emphatically saying that the Esesphiris is not in the oir, it is in the his galus hoir. Shaloi. Loi b'bchinas ha'atzmus. Not in the bechina of atzmus, but in the his galus hoir. Okay. What is his galus hoir? We said that oir is representative of an etzem. In other words, there are two elements. There is the presence of the oir, and then there is what does the oir represent? How come it's there? How come it's there? Has nothing to do with the oir at all. The oil is there not because the oil is there, but because the etzem is there. And in that element of the oil, there is no sphere. There's nothing there. His galus oil, that there is a cognizance. Excuse me. There's a cognizance that there is oil, although oil is there because of the Yatzim. But there is these two elements in the oil. That there is a recognition that there is an Yatzim. That already is oil, his galus oil. And in there could be spheres. But in the oil, the Yatzim, in other words, what causes the oil, what is the background for there being oil, which is etzem, then there is no spheres. This is the emphasis. His galus ho'er shaloi. There's not, eventually we'll have much more to say about this, but just to kind of show that we are talking about some really, so to speak, intellectually identifiable element. We said that when a baby is born, we give the baby a name. And the name represents, in general speaking, only a human being has a name, and the human being acquires a name immediately upon birth. Before he even begins his functional presence. Before he begins, like in olden days, a person was called by his trade. The Schuster, their tailor, the Schneider, because of their functionality. There was over here Shmuel the Schneider. I don't know if you ever heard. This was the functionality and the person were very intricately united. That is way later on in life. But nevertheless, we give him a name at birth. But he has no functionality. A name means that the name by which he is going to be known. Known means by which he is making an imprint. But he's not making any imprint. He's not functional. We give him a name. The reason we give him a name, as we explained yesterday, is because his very presence makes an imprint. And then, if we think a little deeper, we see that there are these two moments. Yes, indeed, his very presence makes an imprint. There is a moment where you recognize that his presence makes an imprint. That's where you give him a name. And there is the moment where his presence is there, and you don't recognize it. You don't even before the name was given to him. At the moment when he is born, he doesn't have a name. The name is given to him afterwards. Even if it were very close, but still it's given to him after birth, which means there is an element that he is born, that he has a name, so to speak, he has a presence, but he doesn't have a presence. He has an etzem. And he has an oir, but the oir is not the beginning his galus. There's no cognizance to it. That oir has no qualities whatsoever.
The or before the hisgalus.
Before the hisgalus, before the naming.
Oh, before the naming or before the?
Well, that's the moshel. I'm saying that's why I'm giving this moshel to understand that there is this same inyan before his galus and after his galus. His galus is when you name him, when you recognize his presence. Before that, he also has it, but he has it without being recognized. At least without alluding to recognition. That's a complete. Then there are no qualities whatsoever. Then there's just the reality itself. I said this is just to give us a sense that there is a seichelic way to relate to these terms. So that's what it says. Es firis hazel rabbi b'chinas his galus ha'oyer shaloi. Not in the but his galus ha'oyer. Roi b'chinas ha'atzmus. Not in the b'china of the atzmus. Oh no, it is in fact true that b'chinas his galus ha'oyer who gam came b'chinas yeshu mitzias dover. His galus ha'oir, even though this is the oil itself, but being that it is his galus ha'oir, it is already the b'chinas yesh mitzias. There is already a presence, a yesh. Mitzias dover. ומאחר שהוא בבחינס הסגלוס, הרי הוא בבחינס מציאוס אויר. Being that it has an element of his galus, of cognizance, and therefore it means that he has a mitzius. There's a presence. Mishum zeh, and therefore, and this is the reason, the cause for the fact that nizhavam imenu spheres b'bchinas mitzius. That's why spheres come forth from this his galus ha'oir b'bchinas mitzius in a mitzius manner. Dim ha'yu b'bchinas ayin mamos, for if they were in an element of ayin mamos, or true ayin, a non-presence, leho yoshaya Beis spheres, then spheres would not be applicable there. V'sehu inyan eses spheres the ban. This is in principle the union of eses spheres. We said before that there were two levels, two types of spheres. Eses spheres the ban and eses spheres the ma. The ban means in mitzias. The ban means gematria b'hema, which is essentially the union of mitzius. We said before, I just mentioned again, ma is b'gematria odom. Ban is b'gematria b'hema. As he spoke last night, that odom, seichel ha'odom, is based on bittul, based on emunah. Ban, this is where one verifies and understands things on the basis of personal involvement. This is gematria b'hema. This is the yesh. That's why we said that there are two sets of esospheres, so to speak. Esospheres, the ban, is what we discussed. Now this is esospheres that have an element of presence, of yesh. Shenes was spheres b'bchinas his galus. That spheres were neslu, apportioned, or emanated b'bchinas his galus in his galus manner. Which means these words, that the spheres were netzel b'bchinas his galus. Not that there are spheres and then they can be his galus. The definition of the sphere is that it is be his galus. Netzel spheres b'bchinas his galus.
This is a new mitzias altogether.
Well, it comes from Gilu Ha'ir. So netzel spheres b'bchinas his galus. That what is the sphere represent? Why is there a sphere? What is its essential presence? The his galus. His galus means its effect. The fact that it can be recognized. This is what gives it a presence. If it cannot be recognized, then it doesn't have a presence. That's means netzel spheres b'bchinas his galus. This is ban. we'll finish it here, and then we'll give a little bit more of a handle on it. Liyes nirim v'niglim, so that the spheres should be recognized, obvious, niglim and revealed, or bebchinas metzius dover. Thus, there would be a metzius dover. There would be a real presence and an identifiable thing, metzius dover. Yeah, just I want to. This year we're talking about spheres in general, spheres, Mount spheres, bound. Within this Seder, within the human structure, the human being is, of course, this is the contain it all, and if we can find an element of everything we discuss in the human being. Ma'uban, Ma generally is seichel, like the Alter Rebbe says, Chochma is koyach ma, and Chochma is the principle of seichel. All seichel is based on Chochma, as we discussed last night. And therefore all seichel goes into the category of ma, of non-mitzias. Then there is ban. Ban is a midas. So one clear thing that is said about seichel and midas is that seichel is something that a person can engage in on his own, in total isolation. Like the Lashon in the Maimed, one can pursue Chochmah independently of anything else, on his own. This is seichel. The lower element of the seichel is where one begins to think, how would I explain this to someone else? That's really not seichel, not pure seichel. Pure seichel is when his focus is on getting there, and into the period. Not to be able to verbalize it and to convince someone else of it. Then that second ambition, this is already the ban of the seichel. This is the midas of the seichel. Midas, on the other hand, Jesus explains, midas do not exist without a recipient. If there's no one to do chesed, then the whole chesed doesn't exist. Cannot be in the presence. One cannot pursue chesed without there being someone to do chesed with. So we see that midas are primarily, by definition, his galus, a metzias dover. Seichel are, in the real sense of seichel has the element that it does not be his galus. It's not a metzias dover. So this is, even within the human experience, a ma'uban element. Yes, Aftoli.
Right before Vizeu Esospheres to ban, so there's a hoyu. The hoyu the Bechinas Ayin Mamish no hoyu shine for his spheres. Is that hoyu supposed to be hoya?
You mean if the oil? Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I guess it should be Hoya. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going back rereading the last line so that we should see the clarity as it is being presented. Zehu inyan es spheres the ban. This is the inyan of es spheres the ban. Shenetzlu spheres. That spheres were emanated. Bibchinas his galus. The spheres are bibchinas his galus. The spheres are not innate, so to speak, but they are expressed. Liyesnirim v'niglim, to be obvious and revealed. Ubebchinas mitzius dover. Therefore, by definition, the spheres should be mitzius dover. Their presence. This is the union of ban. If not mitzius, then there is nothing there. So we just start the next inyan, and then we have to interrupt. The Okenoida, as it's known, the same ban hu bechinas malchus. The same ban is the inyan of malchus. What's in malchus? The inyan ha-melucha, where the inyan of melucha is hu bechinas his galos dafka. Melucha is bechinas his galos dafka, exclusively, emphatically. There is no melucha inherently, so to speak. Loi behatzneya, not in a concealed and in a humble manner. Ki im behis galus. But melucha im behis galus. And all spheres of ban have this element of his galus. And this will pursue in Mitzvah tomorrow. Okay, this is it for this morning. Have a good day. We are now preparing for time to go to.